Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Christopher Aaron. It is October 9th, 2019, and let us have a proper silver price update, shall we? That is going to be the focus of this video. This is a very good setup that we see when we look at the silver market, the price action right now. We will turn to the charts in a moment. This is a very good setup. This is the best setup that we've had in the last 3 years for a strong continuation move higher. And I'll show you why in just a moment. Now, just a brief order of business. I will be speaking at the Silver and Gold Summit. This is hosted by Cambridge House International. I'll be speaking, the conference is October 27th and 28th at the Hyatt Regency in San Francisco, California. So if you're anywhere near the West Coast of the United States or North America, I would encourage you to attend. They have not let me know yet which of these 2 days I'll be speaking. It'll either be that day, the 27th, the Sunday, or Monday, the 28th. I'll let you know as soon as I have that information. But this should be a great conference with a lot of bright minds speaking on the future of silver and gold, and a whole lot of presenters, a whole lot of mining companies. So if you're interested in that as well, there's a ton of opportunity to speak to executives in this industry, et cetera, et cetera. And I just want to let you know, please use this coupon code to save yourself 50%. If you want to attend, just type in on the registration page. I will have a link for this below. Coupon code AARON50. This will save you 50% off the entrance fee. It's not that much to start with. It's about $50 US, but that'll save you. So why not save the money, right? And come and, hey, look, even if you can only show up for 1 day, come for the 1 day. Let's meet. Let's talk. Let's discuss gold and silver. So I hope to see you there. It should be a great time. Now, we always start by looking at the gold and silver market over the short run. Let's call it the 3-day time period. Sometimes there is usable information that we can derive here from the short term. This time in gold, I see nothing really except for we see support coming in here in the upper 1400s and resistance coming in here in the low 1500s. Nothing new to write about home there. But when we switch over and look at silver, now this spike low here that we saw down to 1722 in the spot market, if you see that right as Hong Kong opened on Monday morning, this, I believe, was significant, this data point right here, and I will show you why for a moment. So just remember this. Let's call it 1722 and change right here in the overnight hours in Hong Kong. Now, setting the stage, this is the takeaway that I see for silver. If you have been investing in silver, for only the last 8 or 9 years, this entire massive decline from the peak in 2011, or if you've only been investing here since 2016 and it's been a real uninspiring grind and then a hint of hope here, but it's like, who knows what happens. I think the setup that we have in front of us literally right now is the best possibility for this market to really begin to accelerate significantly higher in only an intermediate amount of time. I'm talking the next 6 to 12 months. This is the best setup that we've had in a number of years from a technical basis. I study the fundamentals, you know that. I understand about debasement of currencies. I understand about negative interest rates. But what I'm talking about is what is the market actually doing? This is the best setup that we've seen in quite a long time. I want to show you why. Let's bring up the handy key here so that everything makes sense. Just to set the framework here, we're talking about this long-term, going all the way back to 2003, this rising trend, right? And we had this brief breakdown below that, rejected, and then recovered. So this was our first hint that there is something bullish developing here. If we can recover so clearly a multi-decade trend like this. And then secondly, just look at the significant downtrend breaks here over the last 5 years. Look at this one right here. And we're talking this turquoise color line, turquoise for broken trends. These were the primary multi-year trends that were developing here from 2013 through late 2015. The break, and so technical analysis sometimes is difficult to understand what we're actually talking about here. But if you think about it for a moment, all we're looking at is when does the trend of lower prices break? When is it over? When do we see evidence that there is perhaps a new trend of higher prices beginning? That's all we're looking at here. And this is very powerful. So if you look at it, if you had just avoided this market during this entire downtrend from 2013 through late 2015, and then you say, hey, we see this right here in the very beginning of 2016, and trust me, you can go back into the archive of this channel and look at the videos from 2016. I was talking about this at the time. And if you look at what has just happened here again, we have the second significant downtrend break. We're talking primary downtrends, multi-year to multi-month moves. We've just had the second one here of the last 5 years. Okay, so this is when I began to shift my perspective on silver. I waited for the market to show me. I didn't want to predict the market. I waited for it to show me that something new was potentially developing. And this is why I'm looking bullish on silver here. Now, if we were to say, okay, so this was a major low. We had a functional triple bottom here. Can you see that? 1, 2, 3. Now, this bottom here in the later part of 2018 was just a few cents higher here than these previous lows. A functional triple bottom is what I'm calling this. So from the last data point of the functional triple bottom, we can begin to try to understand where is the new potential for a rising trend. We have a broken downtrend. Where is the new blue primary rising trend coming into place? And how does this correction that we're looking at right now fit in with that? Now, this scale, this 20-year scale, is way too big to try to get any usable information, even from the attempt to draw this rising trend here from the most recent triple bottom. It's too big. We have to zoom it in. Always be wary, by the way, if you're looking at anyone talking about these long-term trends, it's very easy to misplace a trend line. And so we must zoom this in closer. And this is the same primary rising trend. This was the last of the triple bottom here that we're talking about. There's a slight fanning out in the trend depending on whether or not we choose a best fit trend line or an absolute low trend line. And so we take that here and we see the rising trend come into place here for the last 6 months. Now, nice surge here over the last 6 months, getting up to that 1950 level, and now we're retracing. As I said, this is a perfect opportunity here. And I'm looking to get highly aggressive here in the silver market for an intermediate term move that I think will, at the very least, challenge this, if not exceed it, and potentially exceed this number, this 1950 number, significantly. Potentially. So let's look at this. What do we have here? What is this pattern that's coming down? This is a wedge. We can see 1, 2, 3 hits on the upper trend line coinciding nicely. 2 hits on the bottom trend line coinciding nicely. Notice how this pattern here, these upper and lower trend lines are converging in a wedge formation. This is generally a bullish formation, even though it occurs in a correction. As we see the slope of the buyers here, relatively more aggressive in entering the market as the slope of the sellers are in exiting. That's what we see. And what do we see? This is colliding right here. Notice where this pattern overlaps. It's colliding with the primary rising trend out of the May bottom, right? So when we have a collision between a short-term downtrend and a primary rising trend, the bias has to be with the longer term of the two trends. And so in that case, it is the primary rising trend, what we see here. We're showing all sorts of support levels here, by the way. Notice how there's a whole cluster of support here, also in the mid-16s to low 17s. We're talking about this series of swing highs here right at $16.60. Notice this. Notice that rejection here acting as support. So that's coming in here too, merging with these two. Notice also the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement here in the light silver color, right? So all this support is coming in here together. This is a perfect setup. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not gotten involved in silver or you've been waiting to get more aggressive, I cannot predict the future, but this is the best setup that we have had here, at least in the last 3 years. At least in the last 3 years. So there are two possibilities for the bias where I think this is going. Okay? The bearish bias, and we're talking short term here, is that this upper trend line will hold. Here we are right now at $17.80 in the spot market. That this trend line holds and the market has one more dip to take here toward the lower boundary of the wedge. That's the bearish outlook. The bullish short-term outlook is that we break this wedge now. We don't wait until we're down here in the support region. We break it now, but I have to tell you something. When you see a wedge pattern that is this steep, when we have that initial break, it typically means that the market will make one more retest of the broken trend line. This is still a bullish pattern. It makes one more retest. It asks the silver buyers, are they sure? Are they really ready to step in here in the low 17s? And then whichever way this goes, this is the thing. Whether we get the bearish outlook here initially or the bullish outlook, this has the bias of a bullish pattern over the intermediate term. We either break the wedge first or we break it later. And after we break it, we find support here in this region in the low to mid 17s, and we begin to accelerate higher for silver. This is my strong bias right now. I'm looking at a whole number of confirming and a few denying indicators. So I said before, is this this move, and I suspect we will eclipse 1950 on this move. I suspect we will get into the low 20s, at the very least in this move. But does this move turn out to be right here, right now, this is the bull market where we go to $50 or $100 silver? I can't answer that question quite yet. There's a lot of data that I'm looking at to identify that. I do want to tell you, though, if you look at this market and you want to talk about risk versus reward, there's always risk. Things can go lower, right? We can be wrong just at the moment that we think we're right. This is life. This is the markets. However, if you want to look at risk versus reward, and we talk about on the top, we're looking at silver bullion over the last 4 years. At the bottom, we're looking at the valuations of the companies that dig this very metal out of the ground. They're inherently linked at the hip. Risk versus reward, if we are right here in silver, and let's just say, for estimate purposes, that we get back to that 21.25 level. That is a 19% move from the current close here in the upper 17s, 1781 to close today in the futures market. That's a 19% move. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, if we are right on this, the relative valuation in the silver miners is absurdly attractive right now. And what I'm looking at here is the average of a basket of 30 different silver miners in this ETF, SIL. I don't necessarily recommend that this be the way that you do it because some silver miners are going to move higher and some are going to move lower. But we're just looking at the numbers just to get back to those 2016 highs, 21.25, and look at where the silver miners were at this 52 level and look at where we are right now. So anything could happen. We have a very strong indication that silver should be finding support in the low to mid 17s. Could it make a brief dip into the upper or mid 16s? Absolutely, especially on an intraday or a 1 or 2 day basis, for sure. Let's not put all our chips on any one theme, but I'm telling you, this is the best setup that we've seen in the last 3 years. Am I being too bullish right now? Perhaps. But that's why I don't put all of my money into the silver miners at any one time. I maintain a core holding of bullion. I suggest you do that as well. and then I like to trade some of the swings as we see them. This is what I see in the silver market. Please hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you do that. And if you want to learn more about the exact signals and the exact silver miners that we are investing in here, and I think some of these, we looked at that 77% gain. I have 2 or 3 silver miners that I own and that I intend to own within the next 2 weeks that should rise roughly 200% amidst that 77% gain in the SIL fund. So as I said before, I think some will rise more and some will rise less. Please be very careful if you're choosing individual silver and gold miners. All of that is included in Precious Metals Intelligence. That is our premier research service for investors who want to go deeper into the technical signals, into what is happening fundamentally in this market, looking at everything, not only silver, but gold, the US dollar, the US stock market, many other signals coming in there. If you are an individual who says, hey, I'm approaching this for the first time, there's a lot to learn. I would rather just talk to someone who's independent, who has nothing to sell. I don't care if you buy silver. I don't care if you sell silver. I look out for the best interests of clients that I work with. And I work with people all the way from the very beginning of the silver market all the way to those with millions of dollars looking to diversify across this sector. Okay? So nothing is too big or nothing is too small here. I simply look out for the best interests of individuals. So know that you can reach me on the Consultations tab if you're thinking about a change or thinking about getting into this market for the first time. If you think about how much you stand to risk in this market, and is it worth speaking with someone for 1 hour, perhaps, of your time, I would suggest that it's highly worth it. We're looking at the silver market right now, and what I'm saying is, just to say it once more, completely frank with you, I cannot predict the future. What I can do is look at visible and obvious support and resistance levels. These are very visible if you have the proper lens looking at these charts. You can align with these probabilities, and you align with the probabilities enough times. You just do it over and over and over again, and you will come out on top in these markets. This is how this works. So I'm here for you guys. Please leave your comments below. I hope to see you in San Francisco on October 27th and 28th. It would be great to meet you in person, whether you are a premium subscriber or not. If you follow these videos, either way, I would love to see you. Of course, my premium subscribers, what I'm thinking about is having a special conference with you all. I think we'll find a room we'll go to, and we will discuss the markets privately. So just know that is coming up. Thank you for watching. I will see you this time next week.